If I Were the Devil. This speech was broadcast by legendary ABC radio commentator Paul Harvey on April 3rd, 1965. If I were the devil, if I were the Prince of Darkness, I would, of course, want to engulf the whole world in darkness. I would have a third of its real estate and four-fifths of its population. But I would not be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I should set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I would begin with a campaign of whispers, with the wisdom of a serpent. I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what is bad is good and what is good is square. In the ears of the young marrieds, I would whisper that work is debasing, that cocktail parties are good for you. I would caution them not to be extreme in religion and patriotism and moral conduct. And in the old, I would teach them to pray. I would teach them to say after me, O Father, who art in Washington. If I were the devil, I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that everything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. And then, if I were the devil, I'd get organized. I'd infiltrate unions and urge more loafing and less work because idle hands usually work for me. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. And I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Let them run wild. I would designate an atheist to be my front for me before the highest courts in the land, and I would get preachers to say she's right. With flattery and promises of power, I could get the courts to rule what I construe as against God and in favor of pornography. And thus, I would evict God from the courthouse, and then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress, and then, in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion. And I would defy science because that way men would become smart enough to create superweapons, but not wise enough to control them. If I were Satan, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg, and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I would take from those who have and would give to those who wanted, until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And then my police state would force everybody back to work. Then I could separate families from putting children in uniform, women in coal mines, and objectors in slave camps. In other words, if I were Satan, I'd just keep on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.